fucking get loud too. What the? I'm ready to jump ship. I thought you wanted to buy. Don't you? Snake.
I told you this right here.
How you fucking did it?
It's game out.
Bitch. Wait, that's my daughter.
Can you tell me it was me?
Yeah.
We're gonna run a jury clean.
All right. Hello, everybody. We are tuned in to the Game on Bitch podcast with Berto, Kim, and myself, B. Nice to meet you guys. We're going to be talking about episode 4 of the Traitors, The Funeral. Lots of good stuff to talk about here. You know, another person gets murdered. Another person gets banished. It was a spicy one. We got some traitor on traitor beef going on finally. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff to get into. How did you guys feel about the episode in general, and what are your thoughts?
I mean, this episode was definitely like better than the last. It was definitely like, you could tell that like whoever was directing this episode knew exactly what they were doing, and just the build up, the potential like, poison of like one of the house guests, and then a lead up to the funeral. And I'm just like, that was very creative. Like, I enjoyed that.
Kim, any thoughts overall?
I know that people were like, oh, this episode's going to be better than the first 3, but I don't know. Like, I thought it was definitely good, but like the last minute of it, or like the last like 15 minutes of it, I think is like what made it the best, if that makes sense. So I wouldn't say it was like necessarily better than the first 3 as as a whole, but like it was, I mean, the last 15 minutes ate for sure.
Right. Like,
so we start off. Okay.
Like to add on to Kim's point, I do think that like if they actually didn't reveal who actually got poisoned in the episode, I think it would have been a lot more dramatic, and I think it would have actually gagged everybody. And some people would just been like, "Ooh, like I think we know who it was, or maybe it isn't, or maybe it is." They could have had that mystery in there, but no, they were like, "No, we know who got murdered," but they don't. And I'm like, that kind of ruins the purpose of it. But like, I like to see more of a shock value. But okay.
You mean like for the viewer, like if they didn't tell us who got murdered until the funeral?
Correct.
Okay. I mean, I could see that. I mean, I think there's obvious reasons why they say who's murdered. It's just to see, how the traitors are playing their game. But I think in this case, you're right. Like maybe they could have got away with like keeping us on the line, trying to figure out who it was too. But okay, so we start the episode finding out who got murdered, who fell victim to Parvati's, scheme. And basically, it was not somebody that any of us called, to be honest. Nobody knew.
I think I did.
Did you?
I said, I remember because you guys thought it was someone, and then I was like, no, I don't think it's that person.
We were leaning on either Bergie or someone else. Like, we weren't thinking it was a woman.
No, I definitely thought it was a girl.
No.
Okay, well, maybe Kim called,
okay.
but it caught,
okay.
The majority, I think, of people by surprise. I didn't see it coming, to be honest, because, Ekansu is Parvati's good duty. So basically, she is 3 sheets to the wind. She fucking drinks the poison chalice, thus successfully completing the Traitors Murder in Plain Sight challenge. What do you think about the choice to murder Ekansu? What do you think about like the way Parvati handled it? And do you think it's a good move for the traitors?
So I think this was basically a desperation kill. Like, I don't think that Ekansu was their first choice. And especially that Phaedra wasn't even involved in this discussion. And like, honestly, I think she should have helped out getting rid of Sheree, because like that would have at least adjusted the traitors. I understand it hurts her game a little bit, but you got to at least take out some of the housewives at some point. Like, you can't just have all 4 of them coast their way to the end, because everyone will catch on and be like, wait a minute, why do we still have 4 housewives to slay in the game? I mean, like, I get it, but like still. And then later on, when it was almost close to midnight, I think like Parvati was just like, screw it, I'll just take whoever is going to drink the chalice. In this case, it was Ekansu. So I think like she just did to complete the mission. But here's the worst part. She did it in front of Dan, which people are sussed out on Dan anyway, so that's not looking good for him. But if it was in front of like anybody else, it would have diverged it a little bit. But I'm surprised no one clocked the fact that like Ekansu drank the chalice that looked rusted, and somehow got away unscathed. I just don't get that. Like, the gameplay was a bit messy and it was out of desperation, but I think the fact that none of the Fables even clocked in, like, goes to show that they're not catching on, like, at all.
So I
Kim?
had heard that like they didn't really tell because I guess like everybody was drinking all night anyways. Like a lot of the women were drinking wine as it was. So like they were just like, oh, it's just like another drink. Like that's why it wasn't like so obvious, because obviously in the show they're gonna make it obvious because they're gonna hone in straight on Parvati and straight on the cup. You know what I mean? But like if you think about it, like they're in a castle, it's a rusty glass, and you're like, oh, probably like how would she drink that rusty glass? But like if you've watched Traitors last season, they never did anything like this. So probably nobody was like up in the air about like what cup they're drinking out of, like what's around them, blah, 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 blah. Right. So she just like drink this because they were all drinking. And so I can see why she did it and why nobody really noticed it. Also, I think it was again, like I think it was a desperation kill, but also I think it was smart. Like they have to take out the women like they do at this point. So I think it was just like she just happened to be in the wrong room at the wrong time. And also like I'm just gonna come for Phaedra for 1 second. Like Phaedra was like, I wasn't coming for Ekin. Okay, then you should have done it. You should have done the challenge. You should have gone after who you were gonna go after, because it's like you're beefing with Parvati over going after Ekin, but it's like you could have got nobody, which I mean, Phaedra probably would have rather had nobody because she thought Ekin was her number. If that makes sense. But for me, like her Parvati was also close. And so for me, the way that I look at it is if Parvati is willing to give her chalice, a wine chalice, to one of her closest allies in the game, to poison her to get rid of one of her closest allies who wasn't even suspecting her, then Phaedra should also be able to give up one of her closest allies as well, in my opinion, because that just shows that Parv, in my opinion, is playing for the Traitors.
Well, here's to play devil's advocate with that. I think because like I even brought this up that like Phaedra is also close to Sheree and she didn't want to lose Sheree as of yet. Honestly, she has to let the housewives go and focus more on the Traitors aspect. I understand she's just playing it for numbers, but at some point, like again, like you either have to play for the Traitors or you're playing for the housewives. You can't play for both for the remainder of the game. So in this case, also for Parvati, I mean, like, I get, like, she was on a clock for that, but, like, I do agree. Like, I think she should have just given it to Phaedra and let her kill off Eketsu or someone else. But the fact she's not even contributing and just let Parvati and Dan do it, that just goes to show that, like, she's like, I don't care who it is, just as long as
But then she obviously did care, because then she was bitching about it. That's my problem. You know what I mean? So it's like, obviously you cared about it, about who went, but then you're not going to do it.
So it's just like, why aren't you pitching it? I get it.
Here's the thing. So here's the thing. Like, is it smart for her to let Parvati do it? Yes. Just like it was smart for Dan to let Parvati do it. You don't see Dan walking around with that fucking cup.
No.
Yeah, but Dan didn't bitch about it.
He sicked Parvati on it. He sent her on the mission. He's also trying to really get Parvati together over there, puppet master Parvati, and set her up, which we later see in the episode. She goes for somebody who's like drunk, whatever. Okay, I actually do think Ekansu was a good move because it was so unexpected and caused so much chaos that Dan can kind of slink back into the background again. Like now the heat is like kind of off of him. It was a woman. It was about time that they got a woman. I mean, if I'm Phaedra, that is kind of the second strike, right? Where I'm like, okay, the Traitors might be working against me. Like, because we saw the night before, she tried it with Sheree. It wasn't Sheree. Then the next morning, they're like, oh, it's Ekansu, the girl whose name you wrote down. So she's like, okay, shit. Like, you know, I might be in trouble here, but it's fine. Again, if you're not willing to take the risk, you have to be okay with however it shakes out. But this is setting up to what ends up happening at the end of the episode, which is that huge confrontation, which, I mean, was fucking coming and is rightfully deserved because they really are playing on her body, like for real.
Okay, I get that, but I have an argument against that too. Like, I mean, we are playing.
Okay, well, we can wait till we get there.
Yeah,
but they are playing with her, so in her face or whatever. So okay, so then we get to Ekansu, she's murdered. She walks into the breakfast. we have the three traitors. I actually like that they sent the three traitors in first because we'd never see them interact with each other outside of the turret. I think they've been really good about like, okay, Dan and Parvati are always together, but Phaedra's like, listen, y'all are my coworkers. I'm not fucking you're gonna catch me out here with y'all. So I think that's really good.
Yeah.
And so yeah, like they're all gagged and gooped when she walks into the breakfast. You know, I didn't think that they were gonna be so on the nose with the murder in plain sight challenge. I didn't think like Alan was gonna come in and say like somebody was poisoned last night and today is your funeral. Like I thought he was just gonna be like, listen, one of you have been murdered and now it's the funeral. But he was pretty on the nose with that.
Yeah, like it was just the build up to that episode up into like Ekin-Su's death. It was definitely a very, very like intense episode. Like I said, like if they would have actually not revealed who was poisoned, they probably wouldn't have gotten away with it. Like if they touched that a little bit better and kept us like a little bit out of the loop, we probably would have been as shocked as the rest of the people were. But hey,
And
you know
you know
what?
what was
It was a good
interesting to
attempt.
me? You know what was interesting to me is that like even though he's saying like poisons and stuff, they didn't have a moment, and maybe this is just editing, but they didn't have a moment at the breakfast to be like, did you eat anything weird? Like, did you drink anything weird? Like, they weren't really trying to figure it out. Like,
Well,
we, or
kind
at
of.
least they didn't show us that. It
Well,
was just like maybe one comment that Peter made, and then it was like moving right along.
But didn't someone mention about Larsa saying cheers to Marcus at some
And I
point?
think that that was just because they wanted to get Larsa out. I think that was bullshit. I don't think they genuinely believed that Larsa was the traitor.
Which I mean, good. I want Larsa out too. So I mean, come at, props to them. She's fucking
Which is
annoying.
fine, right?
Um,
Which is fine.
So, but here's my thing though too is I think the way that they edited it was because they wanted to show the reason for the like the blow up at the end. Because I think if there was a blow up at the end didn't happen, we wouldn't have like seen that part where Phaedra was like, they set me up, like because I voted for her and I'm going to get pushback. So, and because remember, she told them, like, she was like, well, why did you do Ekin-Su? Like, I was the one that voted for Ekin-Su. And so I think that's why they revealed it to us, is because we wouldn't have been able to understand the buildup if they didn't
Mhm.
show that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the breakfast is done. We get to outside. Alan is looking fabulous. I mean, Alan is serving in this funeral outfit. Like that fucking garment is it. He's eating everybody up. I love this challenge, by the way. I love the funeral challenge. I thought it was fabulously done. Everybody's like in there all black. They're walking basically to somebody's death. It's giving like, you know, who's poisoned, what's going on. They have the clues, having the people, you know, if you answer the clues correctly, you get to go on the chariot and you're safe pretty much. And I mean, the hallway, I can see she knows it's her. She feels it. She's like, I just feel like I'm poisoned. People think that she's playing that up, but she like knows. And I actually listened a little bit to Banana's podcast with her, and she was like, I just had a gut feeling that morning that it was me. Like once he was saying anything, I had a gut feeling that morning that it was me. This was my last day in the house. So people are like saying like, you're an actress. You're just like putting that on. We hear Janelle saying she sucks and she's acting like she's not the traitor and all this shit. But she was like, no, I really feel like I'm going home.
And
Oh,
then
my
and
only
then-
problem is, why did you listen to Johnny Bananas podcast? That's my only.
Oh, because I heard because I saw it on Twitter. It was like Ekin-Su talking about her elimination or whatever, her murder. So
he
I was
would
like,
have Ekin-Su on. I mean, out of everybody else, he was like, fuck the first 5 or fuck the first 4. I'm just gonna have the hottest, prettiest girl at my podcast from the season because that's what I'm into. Like,
yeah. So, and she also did talk about the Janelle beef, which that's what I was interested in because I was like, what the hell? But yeah, so I listened to that. Like, she really felt like it was her. I mean, I love that they left fucking Parvati in there to the final 3. Like, it was eating. It was eating for me. The whole challenge was eating. What do you guys think about the challenge and how it all shook out?
like I definitely think like the setup is honestly one of the best setups I've ever seen in any reality show. Like the direction, the story, everything about it was just so lined up. Like I was on the edge of my seat the entire time. Even though I know who got murdered, I was still on the edge of my seat. Like it was great. I honestly wish like again, I already said this a few times. I kept that out of the loop because then I would just been like, oh my gosh, like I will never be so invested in someone's murder that like it doesn't actually die. It's crazy. But yeah, like I thought the challenge was good. It was short. It wasn't too dragged out. They focused more on the mourning aspect of a player gonna die because they wanted to see how the reaction is. And you could tell whoever did this challenge was smart about it because they wanted to focus less more on the challenge and more so on the aftermath, which is I want to see more challenges like that. I think that's creative.
You have any thoughts?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I mean, I kind of wish they would have kept it more of like the three that they had at the end was kind of interesting because it was like between MJ and Ekin-Su and Parv, right? Which I mean, in my opinion, like they've put the Traitors kind of on blast in a few comps now, where they're like either part of the question or like now part of the finals, right? So it kind of gives them that. But I kind of wish they would have put somebody else in there besides MJ, because I feel like everybody voted for MJ that they thought that MJ was like the one that was murdered, which should obviously tell you that like where MJ stands in the house, right? But I think it would have been more suspenseful, like because all of us again, like, but I mean, we already knew who was murdered, but I feel like if they didn't do that, it would have been more like suspenseful because it was like I don't know, like I wish they kind of would have done like somebody we couldn't believe would be murdered. Like if they would have put like Phaedra in there, we'd be like, what? You know, or like Larsa in there, or like Ekin-Su, Trishelle, like somebody that was like completely random, because I feel like MJ had already had heat on her. So it was like everyone just basically didn't win any money because they all thought it was MJ.
Well, like
good.
I think yeah, because if they put in like like let's just say Phaedra, Parvati, and Ekin-Su, they would have just been like, it's not Phaedra. There's no
well,
way
they can't do Phaedra and Parvati. That's
yeah,
they
but I'm
couldn't do
saying
that.
yeah, but I'm saying that like if they were to throw one traitor in there, and then let's just say they swap Parvati with Phaedra or swap MJ, like let's just say Janelle or something like that, they would have immediately voted for Ekin-Su because it's just like, wait, there's no way they would kill Janelle. Oh wait a minute, like would they actually kill?
They couldn't have
Oh
killed
right, hold
Janelle
on. Oh
because
wait,
she
no, wait,
had the
sorry.
shield as
Oh yeah,
well.
sorry. Not to that.
So I mean, this is the thing. I think they do that because it's like a more dramatic choice of up to the Traitors. Do you expose yourself for the money? Like it's just another added level to the challenge, right? Like if Dan would have been like, okay, I really want the 20,000. I mean, he's not gonna do that because he's not stupid. And he goes and gives Ekin-Su the rose, and everybody's saying it's MJ, then it's fucked up, right? So I think like that's kind of like the money, them not getting the money was to beef up the stakes a little bit more of how the Traitors are playing the game. Which I think that's how they should have played it. I don't think they should have went for the money. I think they should have went for the pylon, and good on them to do so.
And then to add on the fact that like after Ekin-Su got murdered, everyone was jaw dropped. They were like, "What?" Like I think this was a desperation murder that actually turned out better for them because everyone is now confused, being like, "Okay, wait a minute. Who would kill Ekin-Su? This doesn't make any sense. This throws."
They all thought she was the traitor.
Yeah,
they thought she was the traitor, and now they're like, MJ's got to be the traitor because how the fuck?
But you know what's crazy
hilarious.
though? So I mean, the Traitors, like I think Dan touched on it, how he said like Ekin-Su was actually better for us because now people don't really know. But I mean, not knowing that people thought that heavily that Ekin was a traitor, they should have kept her in if they knew that the house had thought that she was like truly a traitor, because they could have easily been like, oh, it was Ekin-Su that did it. Like Ekin-Su was the one that killed whoever. You know what I mean? Like it had to have been her, because that was my thing with it, is like it kind of sucked because we didn't really see that anybody thought Ekin-Su was a traitor until this episode, until her funeral walk. And then literally when the funeral walk was happening, I was like, I mean, this could turn out good, but like they should have killed somebody else and pinned it on Ekin-Su, because now it's like Ekin-Su's gone, and they're like, well, who would murder Ekin-Su? And it kind of puts more of like, I feel like a little bit more back on the traitors a little bit more, where like they could have had MJ, people were suspicious of MJ, and people were suspicious of Ekin-Su that we didn't obviously know, right? And they could have like maybe pinned it on those two. And the fact that those two were both down the bottom with Parv is kind of crazy.
They
but
both
yeah,
still think it's MJ though. Like I think the majority now is thinking it's MJ. I mean, that's was the name on everybody's lips, right?
which I mean is good.
During that time,
which I
yeah.
mean is good. Like that's good that they had somebody else besides Ekin that they can kind of like throw it under. But like it's still kind of like interesting because it's like I didn't know that they all thought that Ekin was a traitor.
Right.
So I was like, after that happened, I was like, was it really that smart of a move to get rid of Ekin? I'm not sure. Like I think it was great for chaos and like drama and stuff, but I really don't know long term if it was great for the traitors. I guess we'll have to see, you know what I mean? But I really don't know because it seems like they could have pinned it on her a little bit more.
So we get back from the challenge. I mean, and Dan pulls Parvati into the room and he goes, listen, we got to get some heat on Phaedra. I can't work with her in the conclave, or he says that in his confessional, but he's like, Phaedra is sitting pretty and they already looking at me and you, we got to get some heat on her. And fucky Parvati, like, girl is not thinking things through. They come up with this plan to highlight the housewives in general, which we'll see that play out later at the round table. Another thing that happens when we get to the house is you see Larsa, head housewife in charge, rallying the ladies, talking about it's got to be a guy. They go over to the board. They start pinning out. She says it's got to be an alpha male. It's between Dan and CT. And she lands on CT. And who hears that and takes that shit and starts running? Sandra. Sandra goes to Dan and is like, listen, she's trying to get CT out of here. You know, we get the gamers thing going on. We can't have that. So we run in Larsa tonight. And then Dan goes and plants to see with Janelle that the Housewives Alliance thing is going on and Larsa's a liar and this and that. And we got to get Larsa. So going into the banishment ceremony, it's giving split house. Like clearly it's giving gamers versus housewives. And I don't even know how this shit is going to shake out. They're playing to alliances. They know who the fucking traitors are. They are playing to alliances. That's really what's going on up in here. And that's what I think. What do you guys think?
So, okay, hold on. I got a question before I got to respond. So you think everyone knows who the traitors are, but we're playing like...
I think people have a very good idea of who the traitors are. And I think they're playing to alliances. Yes. I think the only one they probably haven't figured out is Phaedra. But I think they have Dan and Parvati clock, the gamers at least, and are just playing to alliances at this point.
Wow. Okay. So this is my take. I think the way Dan and Sandra like both approached this was smart. I think we slowly backed away from traitors to go to Survivor now because that's kind of how it feels like. Because we're having two sides just going up against each other and see whoever has more votes is out. But even though it really doesn't matter. But the thing is that Dan had the right idea with Phaedra. The problem is you're not supposed to put heat on Phaedra. You're supposed to like target people like Larsa, target people like Sheree, weaken Phaedra's numbers so Phaedra has no choice but to work with y'all, right? Now, this is like when we get to the round table part, Parvati. Oh my god. That pissed me the fuck off. I'm sorry, but that just pissed me off. Like, you had the right idea. You literally had the right idea. Wrong attempt. Oh my gosh. But yeah, like we're gonna see later on, it's gonna get into beef. But
Dan is right. Dan is right to want to cause Phaedra to have suspicion. I do think that that's a good plan, right? And he's smart because he's like, I'm gonna get this bitch to be the one to fucking bring it up. Like, okay, we can skip ahead. Like Parvati, bitch, it could have came from anybody but you. The fact that the housewives are working
Exactly.
together. You go and you plant that seed with Janelle. Go and plant that seed with Sandra to bring up at the round table.
Not
It does
at
not
the
have
round
to come
table.
from you, bitch. Like, why would
No,
you
I mean,
be the
they-
one to say that there is a housewives alliance? That's directly you looking Phaedra again and saying, I know we're the traitors, but fuck you. And there's a housewives alliance, and that's basically you poo-pooing in her face again.
But didn't somebody bring it up before Parv?
No,
Nope.
no,
Nope.
no.
Really? Because I'm pretty
Janelle
sure
brought up. Janelle
Yeah.
brought up that she thought it was Larsa.
because they're all tight.
No,
That's what she said.
that's not what she
Yeah.
said. She said because of the Cheers thing with Marcus. That's why she brought up
But
Larsa.
somebody had brought up before Parv that they thought that the housewives were working together.
Parv brought it up, and then after CT was said that
to Giselle, yeah.
CT said we were all thinking that because there's 4 of you, that the majority is of the traitors should be a housewife. But Parvati was the first one to say the housewife theory, which is like, why would you do that, Parvati? Why is that coming from you?
Yeah, like it just doesn't make any sense.
I mean, I get what you guys are saying. I understand that, but at the same time, like if nobody else is gonna do it, you've got to do it.
No.
You have to tell somebody to do it, though.
Here's
you
the
have
thing.
to plant that seed.
Here's the thing: Sandra could sell it. CT could sell it. Anyone but Parvati could sell it.
Literally anybody.
Yeah, but like the
Janelle,
thing is, like
anybody.
I mean, I think like it's a little bit harder for them to be like, especially if they know that Parvati and Dan are traitors, like, and then them being like, oh, by the way, can you do our dirty work because we think there's a housewives alliance and we think like we need to split one of them up and one of them's a traitor. Like, it's kind of like then they know, like, okay, well, like these people are coming to me telling me that they think one of these guys is a traitor. They obviously know.
Nose like that. It's not like you go and say, hey, can you bring this up at the round table? It's you have a conversation before with Janelle. Like, I mean, they're throwing Larsa's name out, right? You say, oh my God, that's crazy because, there are mad housewives in here. Like, they might have an alliance or something. And then that's how it gets brought up by Parvati saying, first of all, and the way she did it was stupid as fuck too, because she goes, oh, I voted for Kevin last time because he's an actor. And I think, actors could really play the part of traitors. And then I started thinking, who else uses scripts? Oh, the housewives use scripts. They're actors too. And so that's why I'm thinking it could be a house. Like, bitch.
But
like,
I thought
Parvati was
Tamara,
she was trying to
Tamara
oversell
had brought
it.
up I thought Tamara had brought up something about the housewives working together at the round table.
At the end.
At the
this
end
is the
after.
thing too. This is the thing too. The housewives at that point weren't even voting together. By you bringing that up, you just made, which is what Tamara says, the housewives might have to stick together. You just made a fucking 5-person voting block because they weren't even voting together prior to you drawing that line in the sand.
But see, I heard the reason why the reason why they thought that, and that's why like Janelle and them were going after him, was because they were super cliquey. Like apparently the housewives hung out with each other all the time, like all day, they were together in clumps all day. Like even though they didn't vote together, like they were obviously working together in a sense that they're not going to vote each other out. And then I think the downfall, honestly, is Phaedra fighting so hard to keep fucking Sheree. If she didn't fight so hard to keep fucking Sheree during that chalice and just let Sheree go, I don't think this would have been a problem. But the problem is that she fought so hard for Sheree. She showed her cards to the traitors and said, fuck you guys. That's my number. That's my person. That's my goat to take to the end. So fuck you guys. I don't want Sheree gone. So you're going to have to go after one of your numbers. You know what I mean? So in the flip side, I can kind of understand. I don't think the way that Parv did it was good, but I understand why they think the way that they think. And I understand why they would be threatened by the housewives, because obviously
it is a threat.
Because obviously Phaedra is very, very, very
well insulated.
And she's obviously rallying for her people. Like she's made it very clear, very abundantly clear that she's trying to take Sheree to the end. right?
Well, Dan hasn't lost any people either, though. So it's like I understand why you're gonna target the housewives, but I just feel like they lack tact when it came to it. Or not, I'm not gonna say Dan because Dan did exactly what he wanted to do. Now
Yeah, Dan
he's
played it
got
masterfully.
Phaedra versus Parvati.
Parvati. Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's exactly it worked out perfect for him.
Which I
But
mean, good on him. Like, I mean,
good because
Parvati
he caught heat last episode. I mean,
and
yeah, you're right.
Parvati, like, you know, I mean,
She's awful.
I
She's doing
mean,
awful.
I get it, but like we said that about Dan too, and like, you know, there's other ways to go. The thing is, like, I think we're looking at it so much of like, I don't know, maybe I'll save it till after the round table because I feel like we're so like Parvati sucks and like Phaedra's this and that. Okay, Phaedra also should not be fighting this hard for her people. Like, clearly, she should not be fighting this hard because people are going to pick up on the fact that who Phaedra is hanging out with, who Phaedra's going with. You have basically two traitors against one of you, and you don't expect them to freaking knock out your numbers.
I mean, I think yes, Phaedra has to be realistic and think that like accept that she's gonna lose numbers. I do think okay, that's not out of the realm of possibility. But there's a way that you guys can all work together to be fair, which is what she was saying. Okay, I lose a number, you lose a number. So okay, we see
But
Larsa's
Parv
banished.
did. Parv did in
Not really.
Ekansu. She
So
did.
now
She lost Ekansu.
okay. So then this is how they can rectify and play as the traitors if they want to play together. Which the real issue is they don't want to play together, but if
But
they
then,
wanted to.
yeah, but the big problem is that like I think if Dan and Parvati wouldn't like go against Phaedra, they probably all would have been fine. But because like Phaedra is like so like sticking her neck out for Sheree, it literally just burned herself in the process, and also put spotlight on Dan and Parvati because now they're both trying to like throw crosshairs at each other, and then everyone's gonna pick up being like, oh, there's three traders that don't want to work together. Let's take advantage of that. Let one of them kill off one of our numbers, and then take off one of the traders. That's what they're gonna
But
do.
also,
Where
like,
they fucked up is that Dan and Parvati have already been clocked. So that's why I'm like, okay, this is gonna get ugly on all sides. Like one, I don't think Phaedra's in a good position either because they're about to just 2-for-1 dog walk her numbers. I could see that happening for sure.
but I
And then
think,
the other
yeah,
thing too is it doesn't look good for Parvati because now where you had Phaedra probably trying to smooth over relationships that you could count on her vote and shit like that, and probably trying to protect you in conversations, you don't have that. And she's very social with most of the people in the house. So that's where it's getting tricky. Because if Phaedra starts throwing Parvati's name out there, I think Parvati goes first.
well, yeah, but I think we look at it and be like, oh, Parvati started this war. But like realistically, in my opinion, I think Phaedra started it, to be honest with you. Because for me personally, like they talked about again, Ekansu was kind of one of Phaedra's numbers as well as Parvati's numbers. And Parv again died on the sword for one of her numbers to take out Ekansu instead of
Okay,
going
but they
after
were
Sheree.
plotting on taking out Phaedra's number first. Why would
she
they choose to take out Phaedra's number first?
because they need to get rid of Phaedra's number.
But
If Phaedra
they still did the first shot though.
but if Phaedra didn't actively try to fight for Sheree so hard, they probably would have just let it go. They probably would have said, okay, you know what? Like, we'll just leave Sheree and we'll just go after MJ or we'll just go after this person. But the fact is that Phaedra has been rallying for freaking Sheree this whole time.
She protected her. She protected one person. They also have probably their number ones in the game. Like they plotted on her first by trying to take out her number one in the game. That was the first strike. It wasn't her protecting her number one. It was them. We're gonna take her number one. And the way they even said it, Dan even said, what's she gonna do about it? They even said it like that. So
okay.
that was the first strike.
I mean, we'll agree.
I mean, did he, Berto, did he or did he not even say it like that? Like, well, what's she gonna do about like it's gonna be Sheree or MJ? That's who's gotta go. And then she's like, and then Parvati
that's
goes,
why
Phaedra's
that's
not
when,
gonna
like,
like that. And he's like, well, what's she gonna do?
That's basically how Dan worded it. Yeah, like
That's
originally
the
they
first
were gonna
beat.
do. See, like I get why they did that is because like I think they both realized that they all have their numbers, but I think Dan like said to Parvati, "Hey, we need to weaken Phaedra's numbers and do Sheree." That is valid. The problem is that Phaedra stuck her neck out too much for Sheree. Both of them clocked the fact that Phaedra stuck their neck out for Sheree. So they were like, okay, you know what? Let's not piss her off right now because they don't know that we're doing Sheree. So let's just go for one of our own instead. But then afterwards we're gonna strike a housewife. I think.
But we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Like we saw that one scene of her sticking her neck out for Sheree, but like we don't know. Like she's probably the reason why they were going after Sheree. Like Dan's not stupid. There must have been other stuff that they didn't show as Phaedra trying to protect Sheree because they were actively trying to go after Sheree. So there must have been other stuff that wasn't shown on the show that Phaedra did that showed that Sheree was her number one.
Why not have a conversation with Phaedra and say, hey, can we get Sheree out?
We don't know if they did have that conversation.
What did Sheree do last season when it came to Cody and Ryan? Did she sneak around and try to strong arm him to and plot and scheme?
But
no,
we don't know. We don't know what the conversations was. Maybe they've been trying to actively get rid of a housewife.
Okay,
we
so
don't know if they try to murder a housewife.
Let's go on what we've been seeing. Then let's go on what we've been seeing, because at the end, what I saw was them say, "We're gonna get Sheree. We don't give a fuck," and Phaedra needs to lose a number. That's what is being shown.
That was shown. Yes.
Okay, well, good for them. I mean, good for them.
So that was the first strike. So that's what I think started the war to begin with, which, okay, we find ourselves here. Now it's housewives versus gamers. It's very clear. It's a split house. And that's why I think they know who the fucking traitors are. I think they know who the traitors are. I think they are just like, we don't care. We're still going to play 2 alliances. And may the best person win.
Oh.
Hi, Flopsy.
Oh, is that the mascot?
Yeah.
Yeah. I do like at this point, I think they all clocked the traitors. I think like one of the housewives is one of the only traitors they needed to like figure out, but I don't think they would snitch on them, like at least not yet. I think for Dan and Parvati's game, it would make sense to tell one of the faithfuls to be like, hey, I think it's Phaedra. But at this point, Phaedra's already pissed off at both of them. So you need to find someone who you can trust for one of the faithfuls to snitch out it was Phaedra, so that way you could get her out. Otherwise, you might as well take out another housewife and weaken Phaedra's numbers and then go from there.
And so, yeah, so like, I don't know how it's going to end. I mean, we see the explosion at the end. Obviously, like Phaedra's not happy. I think, yes, she did kind of show her cards a little bit at the table by going so hard towards Parvati. I mean, I was living for it, obviously, but I do think she showed her cards a little bit at the table. Like, girl, you kind of bucking up a little bit too much if you the fucking traitor in the housewife. She was like, don't do the housewives Parvati. Like, coming for her. I'm like, girl, you need to settle down too.
I'm like, Phaedra almost kind of gave herself up there too, being like, don't done for the housewives Parvati. Just the way she said it, I was like,
oh.
I mean, but also like, again, like, I think Phaedra is obviously playing a very good game, but I think she's playing up to this point. And I think at this point, it's how she pivots away from this, because I really, truly think that like the way that she also like Parvati messed up by the way she said something, but I think Phaedra also messed up, because here's the thing. In my mind, if there's 4 housewives, I know one of them is probably a traitor, right?
One of them is, yes.
And you have to think that the gamers have probably clocked that one of them probably is a traitor.
And now it's been said.
Strength in number, right?
And now it's been said.
And so now basically it's like, okay, which one of these 4 is a traitor, right? And if they can get rid of one, that narrows it down to 3. So out of the 3 of them, one of them's a traitor. So it's kind of like, I understand why also like they want to go after a housewife as well, is because like, again, Dan and Parv have been kind of exposed, and I feel like people kind of have figured them out a little bit. And so they're just like, okay, well, if they figured us out, like we're going to try to like get them to try to figure out Phaedra, because whatever. But anyways, we should just probably get to the round table, because
I mean, we're at the round table. We've been talking about the round table. So I mean, basically, all right. So so Janelle says, I think it's Larsa. He was talking about poison. You did that weird cheers for Marcus, to which Larsa's like, bitch, why would I send my own boyfriend home? And she's like, I just thought the cheers was weird. Larsa's like, I think you're weird. I think how selfish you are is weird, which is hilarious.
Yeah, that was spicy. That was funny.
That was hilarious. Then, so Larsa throws out her freaking CT theory, which I'm gonna give Kim her tons here because yes, the bitch is loud and wrong. You were on it with fucking Dan. You had him, and now you over here throwing up CT. Why? Because he's just bigger. Like that's stupid. Like you should have just stuck to the fucking plot. You had it right. She's okay. So now she's trying to throw suspicion on CT. I think the way that CT played the allegation on was very good. He was just like, okay, well, I'm only gonna defend myself because I have to. You're kind of putting me on the spot here, but like he was so cool and calm and collected.
He was nonchalant about this whole thing. He was like, Larsa, you and I both know I'm not the traitor. Why are you
Which you could do that when you're not the traitor, right?
Yeah.
But
I also feel like CT kind of, I feel like that kind of showed too that because didn't CT kind of bring up something like it must be the housewives or something? Like I feel like CT kind of knows it's one of them, right?
yeah,
and
I feel like
like
it's most of you. He said we think it might be most of you.
Yeah. Like because Janelle was talking before, like it could be 2 girls and 2 guys. Remember they were saying like, or it could be like a mix, which originally I thought it was going to be at least 2 girls, like going into it, which it is, right? But like I thought it was going to be at least 2 girls and maybe be 4 traitors. So yeah, and I mean again, like power in numbers, right? Like I mean the chances are of at least one of the housewives being it is good. So I think CT also subtly kind of threw Phaedra under the bus as well. Parvati didn't do it as good, but CT did it as well. So, you know.
Yeah. Like the only difference is that like you could tell which one is a traitor based off of how Phaedra react, and especially when CT like mentioned about the housewives, who just kept her cool. But then when it came from Parvati, Parvati's like, Phaedra's like, no, you're not doing that. And I'm like,
yeah, I mean, Phaedra
kind of exposed yourself a little bit.
Yeah,
and it's yeah, because if I'm at that round table, I'm definitely clocking what the fuck happened between Phaedra and Parvati. I'm gonna be like, what's that about? But okay, so this is my favorite part of the episode. MJ says, oh, so after they call out CT, Kevin's like, I'm not really getting this like alpha male allegation. Like, I don't know what's going on. Like, what's that about? And then MJ's like, well, that's why we're thinking it could be you. And then he's like, well, what makes you think I'm like so insecure that I want to get all these other guys out the house? And she's like, well, because, and he's like, if I was the traitor, I would vote you because I find you highly annoying.
I mean, good, like good for him. I mean, the thing is, like, I think it's one of those people where, like, honestly, like, I feel like Larsa was like on her high horse, and I feel like MJ was like her little minion behind, and they feel like they're like better than everybody. Because even like Tamara said she had issues with Larsa, or not, was it Tamara or Sandra had issues with Larsa?
Sandra.
And then
Sandra.
Oh yeah, and then Tamara thought Kevin was annoying too. So like you can kind of see like they like all the Bravo people are like kind of going after like certain people, and then like the non-Bravo people are kind of going after certain people. So it's like, if you all think that Kevin's the traitor and you guys are all on Bravo, like, but
Kevin cleared the fuck out of MJ as he should. He gagged her. She even had to laugh because he was like, I will vote you. Like,
but also right. Like, I think it's so stupid that that's even an allegation that you're like an alpha male. Like, I feel like that's such like in my opinion, like a stupid thing to say and to go off of. I mean, obviously you're just using that as an excuse, but like what? So I think you're a traitor because you have blonde hair.
It's giving, I think it's John because he's a politician part 2.
Yeah, like
that's what it's giving. Like, what the fuck does that have to do with anything? Like, you're just going off a gut feeling, a vibe because of what? Like,
because they went after Marcus. It has to be an alpha male that's threatened by Marcus. Like, so the fact that Kevin was like, "Oh, you think it's me because I'm so threatened by," like, I was proud of him in that moment because I'm like, right, like you shouldn't, like that's a great point. Like, no, just because you're a guy doesn't mean you're threatened by other men. Like, because they're macho and you're not. Like,
yeah, he was like, you think I'm so insecure that I'm gonna be threatened by another guy? He like clocked the fuck out of her. I was like, drag her, Kevin, get that bitch.
That was yeah, and I was like, yes, thank God. Like,
I was living for that. Okay,
yeah.
So then we get to the votes, and it's between CT and Larsa, right? Or Kevin, actually, now.
Kevin and Larsa.
All of a sudden, yeah, it's between Kevin. Kevin's thrown in the ring now for some reason because they
I
just
don't even know
like
why
his
Kevin
ass.
was even brought up. Oh, he's an actor. Okay.
They don't
I
like
think
him.
I think it was like the Bravos branded together to get Kevin because they
Kind
realized
of.
because he gagged MJ, so they were probably like, "Fuck it, you gagged me. My feelings are hurt. I'm gonna vote for Kevin." You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, like I
So-
think it was a desperate. Yeah, like I think they were just trying to pile on Kevin just to make sure that Larsa stayed. That was a strategic planning vote. That's all it was.
But then this is why I'm saying, like, and this is where you could see, because everybody, like, in general is like, the Housewives, this social game, they're playing down, da, 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 da. Like everybody's saying like they're outplaying the gamers. You have to also realize there are things that the Housewives don't realize, like the thing, hey, we should all vote together. Maybe we should vote together because this is where it counts. Voting together. You got
But
fucking
didn't they all vote together
Sheree.
this time?
Nope. You got Sheree voting for fucking John. You got Larsa voting for fucking CT. Okay. And then the other bitches are voting Kevin.
So okay, kind of a little spoiler. So I subscribed to Janelle on Twitter because I wanted like some tea. So I like subscribed, and she said Sheree is literally the worst person she's ever seen play this game. She was like, Sheree is horrible at Traitors, and she was like, everyone's taking Sheree to the end because Sheree is that bad. Like she was like,
Good.
Sheree is that
That's
bad.
why Phaedra wants to keep
Good.
Sheree.
Yeah,
Well,
because she
also
said
they're-
Phaedra was.
yeah.
She said Sheree was really, really bad. She's like, the fact that she's just like so off touch of like what's going on, voting however she wants, like just very, just like bad.
She literally wrote John and was like, I didn't make my mind up yet. I don't think you're a traitor, but I'm just voting John. The girl, the round table is to find the traitors. You have to know who the fuck is a traitor. Like, what are you doing? Like,
But also, I feel like too, like they also, I feel like some of these strategically are kind of starting to vote. Like, I think they knew that Larsa wasn't a traitor because obviously, like she got rid of Marcus.
everybody knew.
But I think it's kind of like also you're trying to find the people that aren't going to ruffle any feathers. Like, okay, like if I'm Janelle and I know that Dan's a traitor and I know that Parv's a traitor, I'm going to try to get rid of everybody else who's trying super, super hard to also find out that they're traitors because I already know that they're traitors. Does that make sense? So you kind of want to get
And
rid
I'm
of the people.
also not going to let them know that I know that they are traitors.
Exactly. Like you're going to be like, you're going to try to protect the traitors as much as you can, as well as being like, listen, Larsa's kind of onto them. And I know that they're a traitor. So Larsa's a threat to me now because Larsa now might get rid of my traitor that I already know. So now I need to try to go after Larsa. Right. So like, that's what I think is like part of the strategy too, is like, people are like, oh, like it's to find traitors. Yes. But it's also to try to like pick off the people that are actively like trying to find traitors and are smart about the traitors, because I think the people that know want to keep them for themselves because they want to win. Right. So I mean, 5 or 6 people, 5 or 6 faithfuls in the end, or 3 or 4 faithfuls in the end versus one traitor is not going to win. Like they got to split the money, right? So the goal is to get you to be the last standing faithful with the traitor there. You know what I mean? So, anyways.
Yeah. So, okay, so Larsa gets boot-ooped out the house. I mean, it was stupid. She's not a traitor, but I'm honestly happy to see her go because she was doing my fucking head in just being so fucking loud. Yeah. And she came for CT, and I can't have her coming for CT. Yeah. So goodbye, Larsa. You can go back to, having sex with your boyfriend 5-6 times a day, whatever you fucking say. Go do that.
I also think she bothered people. So people were just like, meh. She's bothering people. She's kind of rubbing people the wrong way.
Deontay quit. Oh my God.
Deontay quit.
Oh, we forgot about that.
Yeah, we forgot.
It was way too pure for this game.
Which is like
Deontay.
Honestly, it kind of makes me sad that like we have a quitter over something so small, but we have a quitter. But anyway,
I know, but it's, you know what it is, because I did read like the Entertainment Weekly thing. He said like it was triggering childhood trauma in him of like, when like being bullied and people not believing you and stuff like that. So I'm like, all right, whatever, it's fine. You can't hack it. He's not a game player. It's not like he knew how it would be going into the house. Like, this is his first rodeo at an attempt like this. So, okay, bye, Deontay. You were funny. You were cute. Good riddance. Mm-hmm. now we got, we had the turret confrontation, which I lived for. Like, I would live for that. I was like, that's right. Phaedra, get in there and fucking let that bitch know. And don't let Dan off the hook either. Like, because Dan's hilarious to me. First of all, when everything's going on at the round table, when Kevin gagged MJ, you see a clip of Dan, he's cracking up. Like, he is like loving
Well,
it.
he's just like sitting there like, yes.
Like Birdman,
You can-
like Birdman rubbing his hands together, like, oh,
yeah, like, yeah, look what I did. You know what I mean? Like, and I mean, honestly, it's kind of a smart move for him to like have them beef because again, like he told Phaedra, like, the reason why we want to recruit Parv is so we can throw Parv under the bus when time comes to be, and that she'll be in front of us. Which again, I don't think Parv is very well liked as much as Dan or Phaedra in the house. So again, like I think that is a good toss out. And I think Phaedra also can use that too, but I also think it's very smart for Dan to be able to realize like, okay, well, Phaedra's in a good spot. I can use Parv because Parv will do basically whatever.
I can control her.
I can kind of control her. And I think that's why he didn't choose Janelle. People were like, why did, because one, Janelle's his number one ally on the other side, right? Like she's a faithful. I'm pretty sure they probably came in and have a pact.
And
like,
she's gonna be getting all the shield anyway, so her ass ain't getting murdered. He don't even fight for her ass.
And so they probably had a number one ally. And two, he probably knew he couldn't control Janelle. And three, like I said, that was his ally on the other side. And then with Larsa, he was like, well, why would I want to put another housewife in here that's now there's gonna be two housewives versus me. You know what I mean? Like that's a number, they're numbers together versus me, which isn't good. They could do the same thing to Dan, right? So I think it was smart for them to kind of put in Parv. But I think it's going to be interesting to see who they murder this round because honestly, it's like, who do they go after? Because it's like, Janelle's off the table. Like Dan's just not going to let that happen. And I don't think Parv will either.
Yeah, I don't think she would go.
And also I don't think they would do CT because that would be a bit too obvious.
It's not gonna
they're not going to do a guy because I think that the guys are dwindling and like
I think they will do a guy, unfortunately. I do think they will do a guy because of this what just happened. I could see it being a guy.
Do you keep Kevin around because the housewives think it's Kevin?
No,
that's
you don't.
The thing.
I think it's probably either going to be Kevin or John. I think if the gamers are willing to lose a number, if they want to rectify something with Phaedra in that turret, I feel like they would be willing to sacrifice a Trishelle or a Sandra.
I think ideally they would probably let Trishelle go, I think
so too. I think they would be like, okay, so we'll walk Trishelle because one of your girls walked. And like try to like make it.
Which I think is the best move. Like, I think they should get rid of Trishelle because one, Trishelle is working close with CT and that's not a number for you, right? That's her number one ally in the game is CT. And two, she's not really doing shit for you. If she's not doing shit for you, then you got to get her the fuck out. And three, then you're keeping a guy in because we're down to 4 guys now, 5 guys. Right. It's slim pickings, right? So it's like, if you think it's one of the guys, there's only 5 of you. If you know Kevin's not a traitor, John's not a traitor, Peter's not a traitor. Peter's obviously not a traitor. He's playing very poorly. So it's between between 3. It's between 3 guys. It's between Kevin, Dan, and CT. So
I fucking hate Peter. I need Peter gone. I fucking hate Peter.
Yeah. So
why are you here? Why can you never vote to banish somebody with your fucking chest? You always burning a fucking vote. He did it again this week with MJ. Yeah. Stop burning the fucking vote.
He's bad. And I know that they don't murder him because I know Phaedra says something about something to him later, but it's just like, I just don't think there's any way that they can banish a guy. Like, I just don't think, because if they get rid of Kevin, then it's down to 4 guys and they know Peter and John aren't traitors. So then it's CT and Dan on the chopping block.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's a guy, but I really, really hope it's Trishelle though.
But I think they're going to try to get rid of Trishelle.
Yeah. Like
I hope it's
or somebody that's like, or even somebody like a Tamra.
Phaedra about to get her number back though, because Kate is on the way. I think she comes the next episode and that's another Bravo.
She does get Kate is on the way. However, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see who Kate gets along with and who she doesn't get along with though.
She's not going to the gamer side. I could see Kate going for Parvati ass.
I don't know. I think she's gonna switch it up this time. She's coming back. I don't think she's gonna be as crazy. I think she's gonna, try to lay low a little bit. And I think she might, I would have loved to see the Larsa Kate dynamic. Let me just tell you that, because I think they would have beefed hard. And that's like the one thing about Larsa going, I'm like, no, she misses Kate like by one
Janelle,
episode.
you don't think Janelle and her are gonna be?
Janelle and her could be for sure.
And Barbie.
Well, because Janelle was friends with Rachel, or is friends with Rachel. But I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. I think this murder says a lot, and I think who they murder is going to be important. And I think it's kind of like this murder is going to have to be a burn murder, just like Ekin-Su kind of
Yeah.
was. So it's kind of like one of those things.
Here's the thing: if they wanted to make ends meet, they do someone like Trishelle or Sandra, or if they wanted to actually do a throwaway, they do a John. That's the
or
only
Kevin.
I think you have to be careful going for a guy. I think Dan's gonna really push
I think
back
you
on
got to
a
be
guy.
careful going for a guy too, but at that point it's like, because this just happened at the round table, that's the only reason why I could see it being another dude. But I really hope it is fucking Trishelle. Like,
yeah, like that's the
I
only
really
way to
do.
repair things. That's the only way to repair them.
Yeah.
But
And
then-
okay, and now that it is split house, we have to start looking at those people in the middle differently, because I actually do think that the gamers have more numbers, because Kevin is more inclined to go to the gamer side.
Mhm.
Peter is more inclined to go to the gamer side. Bergie is voting with the
Bergie
gamers.
is close with Janelle and Sandra.
Yeah, Bergie is with the gamers.
Yep.
And who the fuck do you got? Maybe y'all got John. Maybe.
Yeah, but I think the Bravo people haven't been nice to John. I think John is with the gamers too, because I think like Tamara and stuff was
Phaedra
like,
and John.
oh, it's John. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, that's
it's
true
John,
too,
it's John.
yeah.
So like,
Y'all done
I
fucked
think,
yourself, Bravo.
I don't think like Tamara and them are very great with John either, because
No.
they keep throwing John in the bus. You know what I mean?
You could tell the Bravo people like aren't thinking strategically. They're just throwing people under the bus and then just hoping that it sticks. And I'm like, you can tell it's not working. And like, you got to
Right.
change something.
You had we're gonna protect each other, but you're not playing, because everybody is like, don't underestimate the housewife social game. I'm like, what social game? Because y'all are rubbing a lot of the other people the wrong way. So who really, like, because that's what I keep seeing, like, who really got the social game here? Because the middle people are going with the gamers. They not going to
Exactly. The gamers are gaming behind the scenes. And that's the thing too,
So,
that's the problem that I
let's
have
talk
with the
about
show.
social game.
That's the thing I have about the show too, is that they're cutting a lot out, because like, so apparently Janelle says she knew it was Dan, like within the first 7 seconds. And then she said that she knew it was Parvati like the second day, but they just haven't shown it because they don't want it to seem like Dan and Parvati are kind of like in trouble. But also I think it's part of her strategy to keep Dan around as long as possible, like how we just talked about, like how I think it's beneficial for her to keep them if she knows that they're traitors. So, but I also think like you have Tamara now being like, I knew, like Tamara's on her podcast with Janelle.
Yeah.
I knew it was Dan. I knew it was Dan. No, you fucking didn't. You did not know it was Dan. I'm sorry. You did not know it was Dan. Like,
Larsa knew it was Dan.
I hate that everyone, even Larsa though, like she thought it was, but then she obviously wasn't confident in it. And somebody obviously got in her ear and talked her out of it, because it was like the alpha male thing picked up. You know what I mean?
Well, so was it Dan? Was it Dan's performance at the round table?
That's what I'm saying.
Dan
Like
tens for that?
somebody
Or
obviously
was it
got her off.
Beyonce? Or
Somebody got her off of like that whole train,
it.
right?
Yeah.
And so like there's obviously a lot of social game that's happening behind the scenes that they're not showing, because like you can see like some of these people, they're not showing a lot of the stuff. People aren't in trouble. People are changing their minds on people. But also, like I said, like I feel like Janelle is playing probably a really good social game, because she's probably trying to keep the heat off Parv. She's probably trying to keep the heat off Dan. Like, you know, I think she's really, really trying to keep the heat off them. And I think she's kind of close with like Tamara and stuff. So she's probably trying to like feed in their ear, like, no, it's this person, or no, it's this person. But apparently Tamara said she knew it was Dan because of Alan's jacket, apparently, was because you could hear his jacket, which I don't know how much I trust, because again, like
Johnny also said that about Phaedra with the jacket.
Oh, really?
But I'm like, y'all be
No, I don't think the jacket was
Vision is history.
Like, I just feel like now everyone's coming out of the woodwork being like, I knew it was Dan. I knew it was Parv. Like, okay, like really, you know? So it's like, we really don't know if that's true.
Then?
Like the only person I can really trust that she knew it was Dan was Janelle, because Janelle's played with Dan. So like, if there's anybody that knows it's Janelle that knows it's Dan, it's Janelle. You know what I mean?
I think a lot of people know it's Dan, but
I think a lot of people know it's Dan.
But they're all coming out. But if you really think it's Dan, why not band together and get him out?
Because you still have
because
voting
that doesn't
blocks.
fit there.
But because they
Yeah.
don't know it's actually fucking Dan. They just say that they think it is because now Janelle's on like, oh, I knew it was Dan. Oh, well, I knew it was Dan too. Oh, well, I knew it was Dan too. Like, no, you fucking didn't. If you did, you would have gotten him out. You would have voted with Larson MJ.
Johnny's
here's
saying
the
he
thing,
knew it was
though.
Phaedra.
But here's the thing, though. Like, the reason being that they're trying to do that is because if you take out Dan, yeah, you still got Parvati, but here's the problem. She can't really think too much for herself in this game. Like, she needs a confidant for someone that she could trust. Yeah, she could jump over to the housewives, but then all the gamers get eliminated, and boom, you'll have a housewife winner.
But
That's
the
why
only
they think
person
strategically for that.
the only person that benefits to keep Dan around is Janelle. That's the only person that really truly benefits to keep him around. I think everybody else wants to get him
Maybe
out.
Parvati to an extent, but
Yeah, and Parvati, exactly.
But like other than that, it doesn't really do anybody any
Given-
it doesn't
okay.
do anybody any good to keep him around.
For ending statements, because we gotta go play the game.
Yeah.
Who do y'all think is gonna be the first traitor to go? And do you think they get a traitor this episode?
I don't think they're gonna get. Well, it's a possibility, but if I had to guess, it would either be Phaedra or Parvati. I think Dan's gonna get away this episode.
I don't think they'll get a traitor this episode, but I'm thinking Parvati's gonna be the first traitor out.
Okay.
My money's on Parv, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Dr. Will if Dan makes it with Dr. Will, because I feel like that's not going to be good for Dan. So
I think Dan is gonna make it to Dr. Will for sure.
if he does, that's
listen,
not good for Dan.
Listen, if I
So-
see Dan and Dr. Will both on the same screen together, I'm screenshotting this and I'm mounting that on my
That's
wall.
like amazing.
That is
if
all
they can
I'm
make
gonna
it.
say.
But also my thing is too, is like, who do you recruit? So like, if Parv goes, right? Who do you recruit? I think they recruit Janelle. I think Dan's going to push heavy to recruit Janelle. Heavy.
That would be a bad move for their game. I think they would
Phaedra's
have
not
to recruit.
gonna.
What if they recruit CT?
I think it would be. I'm gonna think a CT or a Sandra.
If Sandra makes it, Sandra's been quiet.
Yes, I don't think they would do Sandra. Yeah, that one's gonna be an interesting one.
What if it's like? What if it's fucking Peter or some shit?
No, they wouldn't do Peter.
I'll die.
I don't think Phaedra would, because Phaedra gets into it with them, but
But why? Is it because he's trying to?
I know. I wonder what that fight's about. She's like,
Is it because
I
he's
ain't
trying to
fighting for
push
no
her out of
rose.
the traitors?
She's like, I ain't fighting for no rose or whatever. Like, remember? Like,
for no
Not the
rose.
Bachelor, and I do not have to kiss your ass for a rose.
yeah.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be coming up soon.
Yeah. I'm excited to see that fight.
All right,
So-
well, here we go. Another episode done, dusted in the books. We'll be back next week with episode 5. You tuned into the Game On Bitch podcast and work. Yeah, we're watching the Traitors. Good stuff.
Say bye.
Bye.
Bye.